In this video, I'm going to show you how to factor polynomials that have three terms. They're called polynomials where your lead terms, so your ax squared plus bx plus c, so out of those three terms, your quadratic term is greater than 1. And I have a couple different methods to show you. One is called split the middle. If I could spell, that would help me out. Middle, M-I-D-D-L-E. And the other one would be, I'm going to call it my box method. And both of those I think are very helpful tools. And I'm going to show you first what is called guess and check, which would probably be my least favorite method of the two. But so I'm going to give us just kind of a starting problem to solve. And I'm going to show you three ways to solve it. So let's say that our polynomial ax squared plus bx plus c. Let's say it is this polynomial 2x squared plus 11x plus 5. Now let's say, because in this polynomial all of our terms are not divisible by 2, that makes factoring this polynomial a little bit harder. And so when your a is bigger than 1 and you cannot factor that out as a GCF, then what do? Well, I want to show you kind of old school. This is how I learned how to factor. I guess you call it guess and check method. To get 2x squared, the factors of 2 are 2 times 1. And to get an x squared, you need 1x and another x to multiply to make x squared. And so knowing that your front term is prime kind of helps you out. So it has to be with your factor pairs when you multiply a 2x times an x to make your 2x squared. And then the last term is how you find the numbers that go here. And so with the number 5, we know the factors are 5 and 1. Those are the only factors that 5 have. But my question for you is, and I'll show you, does the 5 go here or does the 5 go here? And so this is where guess and check is sometimes a little annoying, because you have to actually multiply it out to check to see which one works. And what I mean by that is this. If I were to multiply this through. Now, if these are all positives, I know these are going to be positives. So 2x times x makes 2x squared. A 2x times 1 is going to make a 2x. A 5 times an x is going to make a 5x. And a 5 times 1 is going to make a 5. Do these two middle terms combine to make your 11x? The answer is no. And so then let's try this one. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 5 is 10x. 1 times x is x. 1 times 5 is 5. Do these two middle terms combine to make 11x? Well, yes. 10 plus 1 is 11. And so this would be my answer to my factor pairs. But guessing and checking when you have prime numbers is relatively easy. What if this was a 6? And what if this was a 24? Then you'd have to multiply and figure out, is it 6 and 1? Is it 2 and 3? And if this was 24, think of all the factors there are of 24. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. That's so many factors to have to guess and check through that I think guess and check is maybe the hardest way to do it. And so I want to give you two other methods that I think are a little easier. And one of those is called splitting the middle. Okay, so this is what it's called. So I'm going to take my 2x squared, my 11x, and my 5. And what I'm going to do is split this middle into two terms to help me find my two factors. And this is how you do it. You write a big fat X, big giant X. You take your A times your C, and you put the B number in the bottom. So again, ax squared, bx, and c. My A is a 2. My B is an 11, my C is a 5. So A times C, or 2 times 5, is 10. That goes on the top of my big X. If you've been watching my videos, the big X should sound familiar. The 11 goes in the bottom of the big X. And what you do is you find two numbers that multiply to your A times C, because they're being multiplied, A times C. And those same two numbers add to make your B term. So what two numbers, when you multiply to get 10, what two numbers add to make 5? Well, those two numbers are, add to make 11, 1 and 10. Now the order of which you come up with these numbers won't matter, and the order of which you put them in your split the middle won't matter. But what I'm going to do is split my 11x into two numbers. So I'm going to split it into 2. So instead of 11x in the middle, I'm splitting it into, instead, a 1x and a plus 10x. And then my plus 5 goes at the end. So now with, this is just my side note here, so we don't get confused. Now, because this is 4 terms, the only way to do factoring with 4 terms is by what is called grouping. And so I'm going to show you how to group. You group the first 2 terms together. You pull out what's in common. Here it's going to be an x. If I divide out the x, I'll be left with 2x plus, well, 1, because I took out the x. And my next 2 terms, what they have in common is they are both divisible by 5. So 10 divided by 5 is my 2 and my x. 5 divided by 5 is 1. And when these match, that's one of your factor pairs. And then your GCFs that you pulled out come to make the other one. Now, we already checked with guess and check. This is the right answer because it matches what I highlighted over here. So a big fat smiley face that we found it again. But I want to show you one more method. And when I taught multiplying, I taught it in what is called the box method. And so I want to show you my box method last. Okay, so this was split the middle. And now I'm going to do my box method here. But it's actually the box method backwards. Okay, so box method. I hope I can show you this just right. So again, we're going to end up using this big X method. So again, we have something like 2x squared. I'm going to use the same problem just to show you that it works either method you choose. My big X method is still going to come into play here. And again, we take our a times c for the top. So ax squared, bx, and c. So 2 times 5 is 10. My middle number is 11. What 2 numbers, again, multiply to make the top, add to make the bottom. We already did that. We found out it was 10 and a 1. Again, the order of these don't matter. And I want to show you what the box will look like. When we were multiplying, we would put something over here like x and a number, and we would put something over here like x and a number. And so what I'm going to do is show you that you can work backwards to find out what your factors would be instead of knowing them and multiplying how we did in our multiplication videos. So the 2x squared is going to go in the top left box. The 5 is going to go in the bottom right box. And then normally what we would find is when we are multiplying, our diagonals were what we combined together. So instead of 11x, this box here and this box here, the diagonals, are going to be in some fashion a 10x because that was our middle term, kind of like what we did here, and a single x because 10 and 1 add to make your 11x in the middle. And now what you do is kind of GCFs like we did here, but just slightly differently. So looking down, the 2x squared and the x in this column, they both share a GCF of an x. And then looking down, the 10 and the 5, they both have in common that they are divisible by 5. And this is one of your factors right here. And now going across, what do they both share in common? Both of them are divisible by a 2. Both of them have at least an x in common. And now looking across, what do x and 5 have in common? Nothing. So pull out a 1. This is your second polynomial. So a 2x and a positive 1 and an x plus a 5. So this really relates to what we started with in our multiplying section, was the x plus 5 and the 2x plus 1, and we multiplied to get this. But now we're working backwards, and so, you know, plugging in the box might be useful for you because you multiplied that way. So anyway, here are 2 methods to help you out with splitting the middle.